You are listening to Season 7 of the award-winning Christian Outdoors Podcast with your host, Pete Rogers. All right, everyone, welcome back to Christian Outdoors Podcast. Again, I'm your host, Pete Rogers, and today we have with us Mr. Dave Owens. Dave is the guy behind the Pinhoti Project brand, and if you're a turkey hunter like I am, then you're familiar with the Pinhoti Project. He claims to be nothing more than a turkey hunter, more specifically a traveling turkey hunter, and his obsession with spring turkeys has taken him all over the country by completing the U.S. Super Slam, which is taking a turkey in every state which turkeys live in. As he attempts to better himself in his craft, he's also found success in competitive calling. He has won many Georgia State champion titles, and as well as the 2018 and the current 2025 Grand National Senior Division Turkey Calling Champion. Let's go. Dave Owens, thank you for joining me here on Christian Outdoors Podcast, buddy.
That's a flattering introduction there. I sure appreciate it. But yeah, the outdoors and turkey hunting specifically has taken me in places I could have never dreamed and could never be more appreciative. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and so for those who aren't familiar with the Pinhoti Project, first, how did you come up with the name? I know you get that question a lot.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the name, and then let's talk about what it is and how you use that to promote the craft of turkey hunting.
Yes, sir. We had this idea of bringing something realistic to media surrounding turkey hunting specifically, because it all started as a turkey hunting brand, and it still is. That's where the roots lie. And when I was trying to come up with a name, trying not to be generic. I didn't want to be, Owens Outdoors or something generic.
Like Christian Outdoors.
Well,
generic,
I mean,
like
I was
Christian
just trying to, you got to
generic, but it works.
Different things. Yeah, it works for sure. Just wanted something kind of unique. And I was born and raised in Cedartown, Georgia, and we have the Pinhoti Trail, which is a popular hiking trail. And if you start doing some research into the name, Pinhoti actually means turkey home in Creek Indian. With us being a turkey brand, that being kind of a down home meaning for me, born and raised up and down the national forest there, hunting along the Pinhoti Trail or hiking the Pinhoti Trail, just spent a lot of time in and around it. It was just, it had kind of it had a down home meaning for me. So it all just made sense considering that it was kind of turkey centric already. We took that and put our own spin on it. And that's how the Pinhoti Project was born. So,
well, and it really stands out being such a unique name. It really does stand out among all the other outdoor names that are out there. It does. And that's, and just like I do, when you start a business, the name can either make or break it.
It can. And hopefully if you Google Pinhoti, you don't have to be able to pronounce it right to be able to spell it right, because it's usually pretty short, and it'll take you to us. So we're kind of stand on our own when it comes to the name typically, and it's been working well for us.
So when did you start this traveling hunting under the Pinhoti brand?
Pinhoti Project started in 2018, just on a whim. Kind of got tired of like. Turkey hunting was taking not a turn, but just the way it was represented through media kind of didn't represent how we hunted, me and my small group that I hunt around and with. So we just wanted to kind of throw our hat in the ring and show how it is that we put together a game plan and how strategic turkey hunting can be. There was a lot of things out there that was kind of, in our opinions, mocking the actual traditions that kind of are the roots of turkey hunting and the nostalgia that is the dialogue between, us and the bird. And we just, it was distasteful, a lot of it.
Agreed.
Frankly, we just decided that, we'll show them how we do it and see if it resonates with anybody. And luckily it did. It was one of the biggest takeaways was when we started putting this stuff out there. The amount of people was like, that's how I do it. That they could, it just felt like, it felt like watch. I can't tell you how many times I've read the message. Like, it feels like I'm hunting with you. This is just like how my granddad taught me how to hunt them. And just less gadgetry and more just woodsman knowledge and things like that is kind of how we the foundations of how we hunt. So people appreciated it.
Yeah, very much so. And I want to mirror those comments that you just said. It does feel like that you're right there with him, that you're sitting in the tree beside you whenever you're doing it. Because a lot of the TV shows that do turkey hunting, they're in blinds, in fields with a whole bunch of decoys, and not that that's a bad way to do it. I'm not knocking it, but I'm an older man now, and I started hunting turkeys in 1978 here in South Carolina, way before there were even flex tone decoys.
Yeah.
And I've never been much of a decoy. I have some, but I hate lugging them things around. And I mean, there are situations when it works and you need
they're a tool.
Yeah. But, sitting against a tree and having that bird work is really the way we all have always done it. And, but now I said this to you ahead of time. So if I want to travel to another state and I want to go to, I'm going to throw out 2 different states in 2 different parts of the country. Okay. Let's say I want to go to Georgia and hunt, and then I want to go to Nebraska. Right. And the reason I say Nebraska, because I'm planning to go there next spring. Finding the public land, and the states that have a lottery, you just got to put in for it and hope you get drawn. Right. So we want to get into that. So we're assuming you drew your tag. All right. But, finding which public land to hit, and then locating birds when you've never been there before and trying to understand the terrain. Tell us how you go through that process.
There's many different ways of doing it now. We're very blessed as hunters, in the current climate. Sorry, there's been a truck going by that's extremely loud, but we're very fortunate as today's hunters, is our turkey population is still thriving. There's been some concerns, but it's still, you can go across any area of this country and find turkeys relatively easy. And your game agency websites are always a wonderful place to start, with advancements like Owens and the different mapping softwares that can quickly get you into public land. I mean, it's such a tool that you can utilize. And frankly, if you know what turkeys need, which is roosting and water and some food, you can look on satellite imagery that's available to us now and kind of put all that together, get some habitat diversity so that all that stuff's available, and combine that with, like I said, those state agencies a lot of times will post harvest statistics, and there's a biologist on staff if you can get them on the phone. All of that takes a bit of experience to kind of gauge. It kind of helps to be, I won't say a people person, but be able to read somebody. You can kind of get on the phone with somebody. Some of these biologists are turkey people and some of them aren't. And so it can be, and some of them are turkey hunters. And so you have to be able to kind of gauge that when you're talking to them, like, that's kind of, because I've dealt with some situations where I was like, one of the first questions I often ask is, do you hunt them yourself? Are you a turkey hunter yourself? And especially if you're talking to someone on the east side, if they're a turkey hunter, you can kind of tell if they're maybe holding some cards back from you, even though that's their job, is to relay information. In other situations, you may talk to somebody, especially if you're talking to people out west, that may not have a lot of knowledge when it comes to turkeys. And they may have just not paid attention, I guess. A lot of the western states are geared more toward big game. You got elk and sheep and goats and all that stuff that brings in the money for those agencies. So that's where their information is more readily available for the biologists to kind of spew out to you. But all that being said, they can be a good place to start. Softwares where you can kind of dig in, find you a big piece of public ground, look for habitat diversity, and also look for areas that the worst thing you can do is kind of bottleneck yourself, put yourself in a piece that there's no other options. And then if you get there, you've invested all this time in scouting this piece, and then you get there, excuse me, and then there's no other options around you if you come up dry. Because that happens quite often.
Or there's 15 trucks in the parking lot.
Exactly. Or if you have a lot of pressure. It's one of my main, when I get asked this question quite often, and one of my main things I try to get people to focus on is having plan A, B, C, D. And it's not just for pressure. It's not just for lack of birds. It's also, there may be birds there, but the progression of the breeding cycle it may be different 2 hours down the road. I've been in places to where turkeys were just acting lethargic. They just weren't responding to calls. And I've chased a group of turkeys around, just, basically trying to kill a turkey that wasn't ready to be killed, is what I often like to say. And then I'll go an hour, hour and a half down the road and find turkeys that are in a completely different stage of that breeding progression, and they're responding to calls. They're doing what you want turkeys to do and make you feel like a pro. So, oftentimes having those different, options around you. And that's a lot of times while I also, make sure I keep my flexibility. Like I very uh, seldom rent cabins or rent a room for a week or get an Airbnb. That's just not my style, because I don't know if I'm going to be at that place for a day or if I'll be at that place for 5 days. Because if the turkeys aren't acting right, I'm going to be 2 hours down the road, and that'll be extremely inconvenient. So that's why I typically live out of the back of my truck in the spring, so that I basically have my apartment on wheels, so I can stop wherever I need to stop. So that flexibility, I can't stress how valuable that is. If you're traveling to turkey hunt, you're wanting to find turkeys. We're blessed to be in a day and age when there's turkeys relatively across the landscape. So just giving yourself several options and keeping that flexibility in hand. Typically, you can find turkeys, regardless of where you go.
Right. So if you're like with Western license, you have to, on big game, you have to designate a unit. I'm gonna hunt. Is turkeys the same way, or it depends on the state?
Yeah, oftentimes. Or a unit of the state. Western, it's a little less. Believe it or not, it's a little less. It's not like, going out hunting elk in this unit or going out and hunting bighorns in this unit or something where you're even though their
you're
units are
limited
really
to
large.
just that.
Yes. You have more of that, in my opinion, just offhand here, just kind of speaking off the cuff. You have more of that on the east side, because they have more units and they're more bottlenecked. You have like a lot of your seasons, you have to, choose a specific season and a specific, like I'm just thinking offhand, like Illinois, you have to pick a county in Illinois before you go. New Jersey, you got units. There's a lot of states on the east side have different, Wisconsin's one of them's got units that you have to like note what unit you're going to be hunting in. So, but luckily, with the exception of, like I was saying, Illinois has this county specific. You really have to have a little bit of, got to do a little bit more research beforehand. You can't just put in for a county and then get chosen for that county and then there not be any public land. So you have to be a little bit more diligent on making sure you pick a county that's got an adequate amount of ground for you to be able to legally hunt. If not, you got to do some door knocking, and that's just, it's hard to pack up your truck and go 6 or 8 hours from home not knowing if you got a place to hunt. So it's nice.
That's really hard.
It's nice to do enough research to know you got some public ground there to stretch your legs on. So,
does the door knocking still work in today's world?
It does, despite what you may hear and everybody. Now, it's different down south in the southeast, where turkey hunting culture is so rich. It can be a little bit more difficult. But you get out of the southeast. Not that I haven't had success in the southeast. I have success in the southeast. I just typically don't do a lot more door knocking in the southeast because I'm familiar. I just have my old haunts that I like to go to. But I've had great success across the country knocking on doors. I mean, you have brands out there that are just, maybe not in the turkey hunting space, but you have the Seek One guys, and you got all these urban hunting popularity is not, kind of blown up. And so the door knocking stuff is still real. Those guys are still doing it with success every year. So a lot of the stuff can be like filtering out the noise, because you have these keyboard warriors that want to tell you like, oh, these guys are ruining this because they're doing this. But then you get out there and you find that none of that's really true. All it takes is a little bit of effort, just a little bit of effort and determination. Nothing's easy. It's not supposed to be easy. It's still readily available for those that really want it.
Well, and the
Yeah,
You
you
know,
just need one yes to get the keys to the city.
that's
Oftentimes,
right. That's right. And for anybody who's thinking about doing that, though, don't show up with your face paint on and your camouflage, your gun on your shoulder, and knock on
yeah,
somebody's door because
yeah. It's hard to it can be difficult to understand how common sense can still be can
yeah,
still be hard to find sometimes. But yeah,
yeah,
you got to be respectful, and just I always just say a lot of things can be you kind of see into the future if you just approach people how you would want to be approached and treat people how you would want to be treated. You know,
hmm
just think about if this was your ground and you had some stranger knocking on your door, like what would you want that person to present themselves as?
right.
You know, so that everything, a lot of these, like you said, can be avoided if you just think like, hey, how would I feel if I just woke up and was drinking my morning coffee and a guy with face paint and his hair greased up and
Yeah,
all in a mess came to my door.
yeah.
Um,
I got a turkey
yeah,
gobbling in your backfield. Can I go after it? No.
yeah. Let's
You know.
start the conversation with something completely
Yeah.
different. Let's just
hmm
don't come at them with like I won't. Give me, give me, give me.
Yeah.
Like, what can I offer you first, or how's your day going? And
Yeah.
just try to be
Yeah.
personable. That's where I found my success. Not that I've had a lot of it, but I have knocked on doors and with some success. And I typically, if I had my rathers, I'd be in a big block of national forest where that wasn't even an issue, and property
Right.
lines were a long way away. So
Yeah. 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 But and excuse me, in some parts of the West, the public land can be really hard to get to, like eastern Wyoming.
hmm
Very little public land that you can get to that's not protected by private land,
hmm
right? Because of the checkerboarding thing that goes on out
yep,
there. And so sometimes you have to knock on a door, say, can I go through your land to get to that land? You know, you're not
oftentimes,
even,
yeah,
yeah, you're not even asking to hunt their property. You're asking to get access to the public land. And, if they say no, then you go to the next door and so
yeah,
forth. It's also a good thing. If you're looking for turkey hunting spots, if you knock on the door, you can also ask for future later in the fall hunts if you don't want to blow up your invite right there. Has that ever worked?
yeah.
And the reason I say that, I was talking to a guy. I was actually in Cartersville, Georgia last week,
Maybe it's
speaking
down the
at an
road from
event
my house.
there. Yeah, I know. Speaking at a church down there, and there was a fellow there who was also speaking, who travels a lot to hunt
hmm
all species. And that's what he said. He said, if I'm out turkey hunting and I get permission to hunt, then depending on how the conversation went, I'll ask if I can come back in the fall and deer hunt or
hmm
antelope hunt or whatever it is.
hmm
Just don't try to overdo it though.
Yeah,
Right.
I've never done that because, frankly, my sole focus is turkeys.
Yeah.
Typically, I now. I won't say there's a few places where I bumped into a bunch of deer sign. I thought, ooh, I wonder what this place looks like on November 7th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
has crossed my mind,
Yeah.
but I haven't kind of crossed over into like looking into fall opportunities.
hmm
But I have made some notes of some of the public ground I've been on and stuff, and I do enjoy deer hunting too. Like I told you, I'm sitting in a camper right now on a deer hunt. So um, it has crossed my mind to. I have built relationships, really close relationships with a lot of landowners across the Midwest and Upper Midwest and out west. And but I will say, oftentimes the reason I'm able to turkey hunt is because they're big deer hunters. Like they could
Yeah.
care less about turkeys, but so I
Care less,
know
but
I
yeah.
know not to cross that line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 That's true. That's true. And sometimes, if you get a guy's a hardcore turkey hunter, he's going to say no.
yeah,
But if he's a hardcore deer hunter, I don't care about those turkeys. You can kill all
yeah,
you
yeah,
want.
yeah.
Which leads to this question, Dave, is because you hunt the entire season from
Mhm.
March 1st till the last one ends, like 90 plus days, you're gone chasing turkeys. And the logistics of that, of planning this year, I'm going to hit this state, this state, this state, this state, blah, 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 whatever it is during that season. Um, how do you go through that process? And like you said, you live out of your truck the whole time. Um, how do you even think about what am I going to take with me? How do I pack and how do
Yeah.
I the logistics of all that.
That's the beauty of as far as we'll start at the top, like the packing situation. That's the beauty of turkey hunting for me. It's always been attractive because I'm a minimalist. I don't want much. I like being able to pick up and go, and I can do that with turkey hunting. If I have my turkey vest and a couple pair of good boots and my gun, handful of shells, I can typically make my way across anywhere in the country and have success. Like I say, I rig out the back of my truck so I can sleep back there. I live out of a cooler. Back in the day, I did it out of necessity. I started this as a poor college kid, and that's the only thing I had. I had to, like, I could barely afford gas and license, and so having some bologna and some Vienna sausages and some that's what I lived off of, and it was because I had to. I lived out of the back of my truck because I had to. I couldn't afford a room for $100 a night. So then it got to be that's the way I'd rather do it. Like, it just got to where that was what was comfortable for me. The flexibility gave me the ability to come and go as I please when it come to, if I needed to be 2 hours down the road, like we had mentioned. So as far as packing, it's just not a whole lot different than what you'd pack to go down the road hunting, to hunt your neighboring property, with the exception of making sure you have some sleeping arrangements of some kind, and then just some food to feed yourself. Now, as far as logistics on where I go, used to be a big deal back when I was chasing the US Super Slam and wanting to check off new states. It was part of the fun, I will say, but it was kind of nerve-wracking, as I'd have a calendar of the 3 months of spring, and I'd have the dates. And that's when, like we mentioned earlier about the specific seasons and stuff, like trying to figure out how I could get, okay, if I was going to be at this state for the, period E, and it was these dates, like how could I combine that with a neighboring state to be more efficient?
Right. Right.
And that's frankly just putting down a calendar in front of you and pen and paper, and I'd start from the top. I'd say, okay, these are the seasons. This is the flexibility I have with my job. I'm going to take off this many days, and I can go combine this with 2 weekends. And it was just that. I mean, there's no magic formula to it. It was just putting everything on pen and paper and figuring out how I could make it work. And that was challenging. Now that I could care less what kind of turkey I kill or when I kill it or whatnot, it's not nearly as strenuous, and I just kind of float. A lot of times I'll kind of have a rough framework. I'll have an obligation here or there that may put me in one part of the country or another, and then I'll plan around that. Same way with when we were talking about how do you find public land to go to, with the accessibility of public land, which is pretty well accessible across the country, and Onyx and those type mapping softwares. Honestly, and it was funny that you mentioned Nebraska. The last time that I was in Nebraska, I was driving across the country and wasn't going to make it to my next destination in time. So I just stopped and bought a tag, got on Onyx, and the first public land that I passed, I just diverted over there. Very little scouting. I mean, nothing. Just grabbed. Nebraska is kind of a diamond there because their turkey population is flourishing in all respects. But and it definitely was at that time. But it was as simple as just finding a big piece of ground and just start stretching your legs and finding turkeys. And so I've done it both ways as far as the logistics thing. I've kind of floated, just by the seat of my pants, given the flexibility I have now. And back in the days of the US Slam stuff, I got 3 days here, I got 5 days here. I have been very strategic in that. So
when you say floating, okay. So the way I hear that is, I really don't know where I'm going next. I know that I just tagged out in Florida as an example. And of course, Florida, you got either Alabama or Georgia is the closest state to you, but their season may not be open yet. So you just wait until the next season's open and then jump there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's typically, and it's getting more challenging with seasons, like kind of getting more staggered, and then some seasons all coming in at the same time. But but yeah, it's essentially, I hunt as much as I possibly can. I try not to miss a sunrise. And so therefore I try to plan even my travel. I try to travel at night. I try to do things to where I can be somewhere at sunrise, because you only get so many, and I don't like missing one. Rain or shine, I'm typically out there. And yeah, I plan my whole travel schedule and everything around trying not to move so far that I can't be at the next destination,
The next day.
but by sunrise the next day.
Wow.
That makes for some long nights.
Yeah. Very little sleep.
But very little sleep, and it may make for a mid-morning nap, but at least I made sunrise,
If you haven't slept in the turkey woods, you're not a real turkey hunter. Come on now. Come on now.
You're right. Yeah.
You're not being honest with us or yourself. If you're not same thing with a deer hunter. If you haven't slept in a deer stand, you're not being honest. It's some of the best napping that there is about 10 o'clock on a turkey morning, when you're just waiting for something to happen. And you say, I'm just going to knock out for an hour and hope you don't snore too loud to scare any bird off. Okay. All right. And like South Carolina, we keep changing our seasons. It keeps bouncing around all over the place. Heck, I don't even know when it opens next year now, because of the delayed thing. Now you can kill one between April 1st and April 10th. Then after the 10th, you can kill, your other bird. I think we're going down to 2 birds next year. Thank goodness. We had a 5 bird limit forever, and our population here is really struggling from where it used to be. So I think the key takeaway from this, listeners, is to do your homework. Right. Do your homework. Find out which state you want to go to their website and look when the seasons are. And if it's over counter the tag, that's even better. You can just buy it as you go whenever it opens up for you. What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's traveling out of state the first time? Just pretty much what you've already said. Just do your homework.
Yeah, I mean, just go for the experience. A lot of times, you see the pretty pictures and you see these guy going here and killing turkeys. May even watch my content. It's like, God, this guy goes here and he kills one, and he goes over here. He always seems to find turkeys. Please realize that I've been doing this stuff for 20 something years and traveling extensively. Experience is something that you can't purchase, thankfully.
Right.
And experience is the greatest teacher. And so when I go somewhere, it's with a boatload of experience as well. So I hate when people get caught up in, if they don't come back with with a cooler full of feathers, and they feel like there was a failure. I try to just get them to see the open road and realize the experiences they wouldn't had for any other reason than a bird that decided to chase. Like the turkeys have put me in parts of this country that I would have never seen. I'd have never went to Delaware, have no reason to go to Rhode Island. You know what I mean? Who knows if I'd ever been to Utah or Nevada or one of these places that I've chased turkeys in. I've got experiences there. Just like submerge yourself in the experience. One of the main places that I always get questioned about is Florida. And it's one of those, it's a type 2 fun. You've got to really endure going the public land route. You've got to really endure a lot of difficult endeavors to be successful down there. And successful, I'm probably using that in the wrong term here, considering what I'm talking about. But when people ask me about Florida, I'm like, please just go for the experience, because you go down there, you're in a habitat that's unlike anything else you'll ever experience anywhere else. Like immerse yourself in the experience, because it's an incredible place. But if you go down there thinking that it's Nebraska, for instance, and you're going to go out there, hear 4 or 5 turkeys off the cuff with very little, investment, and come home with a couple turkeys every year, you're probably going to be disappointed. So, and luckily from the people that I've heard from that have gone down there that maybe didn't get a turkey, they were like, you were so right. Like it's a place I've figured out that people either just absolutely love or absolutely hate.
Really?
They're like, I went, I'll never go again. And those are the type of people that typically don't like that type 2 fun. They don't like the absolute just grind. And I do. That's the part that I kind of I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And But the people that do, they're like, I'll go back. I don't care if I ever kill one there. Just being around that many unfamiliar sights and sounds, like you hear birds down there that you're like, what is that? Typically, if you're at home and you're in, South Carolina, I'm sure if you hear a bird or some type of noise, you can easy species and birds down there. You're like, I don't have a clue what that was. And it's just
Right.
it's an adventure. I guess it's that adventure seeking that you have that kind of I appreciate when you go to out of state, you go to somewhere you may not know, may not see on the daily, and give you an experience that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Is what I like.
Yeah, here's a question that I asked Cuz Strickland when I had him on the show, and I don't remember the exact question, but his answer was, a turkey that won't gobble is safe from old Cuz. That's what he said. I was like, I know that feeling very well when they just will not gobble and go find one that will. And you've hunted 5-6 days in a row and you cannot get a bird to strike. And you tried this property and that property, the birds are there, but they just got lockjaw. Is there anything you can do? I mean, because I know with me, and I got 40 plus years of experience, I don't know what to do when they just won't talk.
It's just what's the old saying, when the going gets tough get going, right?
Yeah.
Determination kills more turkeys than anything. Relentlessness kills more turkeys than anything. The guy that just keeps getting up and putting himself out there kills more turkeys than most.
That's right.
And that's what I tell people, like, you don't know if you're not out there. So, I mean, I've been a part of way too many of those situations where you're just grinding, you haven't heard a turkey. Turkeys aren't cooperative. April was like that this year for me. It was one of the slowest Aprils I've had in quite a few years, and it wasn't for the lack of turkeys. The problem you do run into is when people have a tough time, they have to have an excuse to hang their hat on, and it's typical, there ain't no turkeys no more. And the turkeys are there. They were there. They were just acting funny. They were just in a funk that I couldn't figure out. I couldn't make a right turn, it seemed like. Unfortunately, you just fall into those, their playbook sometimes, I guess you could say, and they make you look like a fool. But typically, if you just stay out there and you keep chopping wood, you'll eventually, strike gold eventually.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like hunting the states you have to stop at noon.
Yeah.
I finally got him to strike at 11:30, and I got to stop at noon. Are you serious? Golly, I'll chase them all day long, but it's really frustrating those states when you got to stop at noon or 1 o'clock, depending on the state. I don't understand that, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I'd much rather have those states than no Sunday hunting states. I dislike being able to have to completely be out of the game for a full day, especially for a traveling turkey hunter that may only have the weekends to center his time around. I really dislike that whole non-Sunday. And we're seeing it fade. I think Pennsylvania just got rid of it finally. I think that's what I remember. The noon stuff, selfishly, I don't mind the noon stuff because it makes me work. Editing is a large part of my life. And like you said, I'm bad about if I get on one or if I'm not on them or if I'm on them. I can always find an excuse to stay. But if they make me get out of the woods, I find that I get my editing and I get my I's dotted and T's crossed a little in more of a timely fashion. So selfishly, the noon cutoff helps me.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense because you mostly hunt alone and film yourself, correct? Yeah. So explain that. I know what I've seen, and I may be wrong here. You carry a GoPro on your shoulder, sometimes on your head, and then you have a tripod camera as well. Is that pretty much close?
Yeah, I keep a GoPro typically attached to either my binocular harness or my turkey vest strap, and then I don't wear anything on my head. I can't stand that.
I can't either.
You look goofy, and
it keeps making your hat go down.
Make your hat look in, not you look like a goofball. So I don't do the head thing. And yes, I have a small 4K recorder, like a video camera that I keep on a small tripod. Because when I started this thing, I thought, it may not be the best quality footage. I'm not trying to be one of those guys. If you want some of that type stuff you can find at many places.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of a put you in my shoes, make you feel like you're right there with me, and get the best that I can, because I feel like it's more relatable to a lot more folks.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I got, and the biggest thing was making it mobile. I knew if I tried to carry a big tripod and I tried to carry like this heavy equipment, that I'd just leave it. So I had to make it, as small as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the footage would suffer some, when I did that. But what I figured out, just getting the content was the biggest deal.
Mm-hmm.
The viewers would deal with a little bit of grainy footage, or a little bit of footage it was out of focus or something, because I just wanted to feel like they were there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I basically got the smallest camera that got decent footage, and kind of tried to find the smallest tripod with decent footage. I don't use a liquid head because they're heavy and they're bulky. I can't drop it in my vest. And I just try to get a couple different angles. Now there's a give and take to everything. Some of these guys are using, like the POV cameras, like the GoPro cameras, like those are just not built for main footage. Like you can't get any type of quality content because they're so wide.
It's that fisheye lens on it.
Yeah, and it's good for, like, if you want to record yourself or like record the setup, but like when a turkey's at, he can be 25 yards, and you just flat out can't use that footage almost, because when you crop in and post, like when you're editing, it's so granulated it doesn't even make sense. So I try to do at least one step better than that, and have a main camera, have a 4K camera that I can crop in editing and get something that's usable.
Yeah.
And I also have the barrel cameras, and that advancement in that technologies really came a long way, to kind of bail me out when the turkey, because he always seems to come up on the wrong side, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's nice to always have like that barrel camera to kind of help tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that if I have enough pieces of footage to tell the whole story, um, people can usually relate to having the turkey come up on the wrong side and having the camera in the wrong angle. So,
yeah. All right. One more question about turkey hunting, and that is, which is harder to kill? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A mountain turkey, a flatland turkey, a farmland turkey, or what's the other one I missed? I had four in my head. I just lost the fourth one. Mountain, swamp turkey, mountain turkey, and like a prairie turkey or a farmland turkey.
It's probably whichever one you're least familiar with, is what I have found. If you're a guy hunting South Carolina like you are, especially if you're in the low country, swamp birds are probably in your wheelhouse, but climbing the mountains and getting up in the steep stuff may not be. Or going to the prairie where turkeys can see and you have to hunt a lot with your eyes may not be. It's basically what you're not familiar with, because I know, like I mentioned Florida earlier, you get down, which, a lot of similarities with the low country. You get into the thick swamps, the flat, wet swamps. It can really be foreign to somebody that's from the Midwest, or from, even North Alabama, North Georgia, the mountain, the Appalachians. You could jump down in those swamps where you're dealing with palmettos and thick swamp and a lot of water. You just are not familiar with how the turkeys traverse it. So I found that anything that's not familiar, anything you don't have out of your backyard, is typically going to take, because it's typically not the bird, it's how they use the vegetation, the terrain, the topography that they're living in, that you're not familiar with. That's what makes it tough.
Yeah. For me, it's mountain turkeys.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, I guess it's my age and my hearing. It's hard for me to know which ridge they're on, or to pinpoint how far they are. The way the gobble echoes through the valleys and stuff, I find myself busting them because they're a lot closer than I think they are.
Yeah.
And I have had a hard time with mountain turkeys, and that's why I love to watch your mountain turkey videos, just for that reason, because I'm learning something every time I do. It's like, okay, I see how he's doing that. Yeah, that's what they eat.
And it's the opposite for folks like, it's the opposite for folks like myself. Like when I jumped down into Florida swamps for the first time, being a ridge runner up here in North Georgia, North Alabama, same situations. Like you have to really understand how that volume travels through that thick vegetation. and how when they're on the roost and they're gobbling through just a cypress head and across a prairie, that you can hear them a long ways. But as soon as they get on the ground, I mean,
Can't hardly hear them.
It's like they're gobbling underwater because you can't hear them almost. And so you really have to differentiate. Like, I can hear him a long time now because he's still on the roost, but when he flies down and I hear that gobble, if it's got the same intensity, he's almost in shotgun range. And so that's, quite the opposite for me. It was the same situation of, like, you bust turkeys, and you're like, oh, he was a lot closer than I thought he was, or whatnot. So here again, it's just all what you're familiar with is what makes it tougher, because you're dealing with unfamiliar, characteristics of the terrain.
Right. And as you said, experience. You cannot replace boots on the ground, time in the woods.
You can't. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want, and you can read the magazine articles like we used to have to do, and trust me, it's a valuable resource. It's something that I wish I had when I was, trying to learn this trade. But there's no substitute for experience. You can't bottle it. You can't buy it, thankfully. And that's just what you got to do. The best way of learning it is to do it wrong, and you'll figure it out.
Well, as to wrap that up, as Colonel Tom Kelly said in his great book, The 10th Legion, which I read every spring, as he said, every turkey has its currency, and the currency is time.
Time. Yep.
You got it. We're fortunate here at Christian Outdoors to have quality companies supporting our mission, and Mueller Optics is a perfect example of this. Since 2007, Mueller Optics has had one mission: to bring the passion of hunting and shooting to everyone. Mueller Optics' aim is to offer top-tier rifle scopes that won't break your budget, making quality optics more attainable for enthusiasts like us. Now, I started using Mueller Optics scopes last season. Not only was I impressed with the cost of these scopes, but the quality of the glass and the ease of operation was as good or better than other brands costing 3, 4, or 5 times as much as the Mueller Optics scopes do. Whether you're building the rifle for the hunt of a lifetime, an ultimate whitetail setup, or trying to make your 22 perfect for small game hunting and plinking, Mueller Optics has a scope for you that will outperform any other scope in its price point. And to further help Christian Outdoors, if you use promo code COP for Christian Outdoor Podcast, COP35 at checkout, you will save 35% on your purchase. Just go to MuellerOptics.com to find out more. All right, Dave. So as we said, pre-recording, Christian Outdoors, that's what we talk about. We talked about our love for turkeys. Now I'd like to hear, if as much as you're willing to share, your particular faith journey. Did you grow up going to church, or is it something you came to later? Or if you don't mind, I'm going to let you talk and just share as much of that as you will.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably pretty generic as to anybody in the South. We were Southern Baptist. My mother drug us to church, oftentimes against our will, but we were going to be there. Sunday school, vacation Bible school, all the typical stuff. But as far as my journey, that's just kind of how I was raised. You begin to mature. You go through college and you do all these kind of things, and you kind of go on your own journey. A lot of times you kind of, hoe your own row, I guess you could say. And faith is one of those things where I kind of did. I've always been one of those that found my peace in the woods. And to be frank, I kind of, when I got older, I kind of ventured away from the church kind of atmosphere. Church had too many people, and frankly, I a lot of times church people kind of did the opposite of what church was supposed to do for me, and that was kind of what there's an insincerity there, I guess, I found sometimes in the church, and I was always a self-reliant person, so I was like, I'll figure this out on my own. And I had a lot of small details and small situations in my life that kind of led me to my own belief, I guess you could say. Little things that just happen that I don't believe in circumstance very much. I don't believe in coincidence very much. I think everything happens for a reason. I think there is always a divine power up there that was watching over me in a lot of aspects in life. And it's come full circle. I was given this platform and given these talents, I guess you could call them, or just a desire to want to hone a craft like turkey hunting or hunting in general. And I, began to ask big questions relatively recently, over the last handful of years, like why me? Like I'm just a normal guy. Like why do I have this desire to understand turkey hunting in general, the woods? Like why?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I make a few silly videos and while my audience may pale in comparison to many folks, there is a following there of people that watch that it can influence, and started asking questions like, am I really using this platform for its full potential? I mean, am I, because it's never been about a way of living for me. Like I
Right.
never intended to do this full time. I did it for my passion and desire to hunt turkeys, frankly. But as and we've always been transparent. Like I start my spring, and I always have, and it with a prayer. I mean, first and foremost, right from the cuff, and always recorded that. I don't record a lot of these moments that I fear are a little bit, not too much for some people, but almost like I don't want to share them as a little bit more of a private a
Right.
situation. And a lot of that has to do, and there's been several situations where I may have taken a turkey or a deer or whatever, and I just turned the camera on, and I know I did it because when I turned the camera back on, I said, I'm sorry, I took a moment for myself. I just had to cut the camera off because this is bigger than a camera. It's bigger than recording for an audience. Sometimes I just had to sit down and whether it be cry to myself or just look to the skies out of thankfulness. And sometimes the camera doesn't belong.
That's
And
right.
I've had conversations with many folks regarding this about, am I carrying a camera in places that don't belong? And I think you are in a lot of respects if you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think one of the very valid reasons is to point to faith. And I've had a kind of I guess you could call them come to Jesus moments over the last handful of years, really, that said, am I using this platform for its full potential and for the greatest question, which is what do you do next, and what happens next? And I got to realizing that I could be doing a better job. I don't admittedly have not conducted myself even in front of the camera in ways that I probably should have in past, and we all fail daily, right? Still do. But just kind of just holding yourself a little bit more accountable, and realizing that as good of a turkey hunter as you may become, as good as how big the deer you may kill, if you aren't directing people to what's important, then what are you really doing, and how
Right.
how much how important is it?
Yeah.
And just trying to be that salt, just trying to be the salt of, just try to be seasoning, and just try to sprinkle in in a platform that people may find for something completely unrelated to faith. They may like the deer hunt, they may like the woods or whatever, and that may bring them to this platform. And just sprinkling in my faith along the way could potentially make a much bigger difference than you ever. And I didn't understand the magnitude of that until a couple of my good friends brought that to my attention. Several of my friends that are strong, I won't say, I guess, stronger in their faith. They're just more transparent or more willing to discuss it, I guess. Brought to my attention, look, you don't realize that people are paying attention to you when you do these small prayers and stuff. It's making an impact, and you could be doing more. Like, hold yourself accountable. You could be doing more. And I, I'm always been one willing to listen. You get people that may get, a few followers, and they may get a little bit of an ego and they start not listening to everybody else. And I've never been one of those guys. I've always listened to the criticisms, good, bad, and the ugly, and tried to kind of put myself in the other person's shoes. And when they brought this stuff to my attention, like one of my good friends who kind of holds me accountable, and I'll say he keeps up with me is, and I don't know if you know Walt Gabbert, Kayla Gabbert. She's got a big ministry. She does these revivals across the country. As a matter of fact, I'm going to one of her baptisms this next weekend to help out in Nashville. But he's just one of those. Is like, look, man, you've got a following, and people know that your faith. You've been transparent enough in it, but are you doing enough? Could you do more?
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I won't say I resisted it, but it was just like, hey, man, I'm doing my thing. And, you know, I think it's pretty transparent where my faith lies. But then you're like, am I doing enough? You know, are you being the salt and the light that you could be? You know, I think you see a shift, and you'll see a shift in my content. And it's not that my faith has changed or my belief in God has changed. It's more holding yourself accountable. Like if you're going to walk this walk, if you're going to talk this talk, you better walk this walk. You know, talk is cheap, and there's so many people out there that will pretend to be this and pretend to be that. But I've always been a man of action. Like if you're going to say it, you need to do it. You know, and it's an evil world, and you know the devil rules the earthly world, and we just and we have to remember that if you're going to be a light, you need to be a light. You know, if you're lucky enough, like a situation like my own that has a platform to shine that light or be that seasoning, then it needs to be consistent. You know, and that's just one of the things that I've kind of started holding myself more accountable to, and being more diligent about, is making sure that I'm consistent in that faith discussion. I'm not the most knowledgeable, not qualified to talk about it. There's people that if you have faith questions, I'd be glad to have that conversation with you, but I can direct you to people that'll be able to direct you to the word and give you the answers much more seamlessly than I will. But I'm not bashful about where my faith lies and my beliefs, and just trying to be a humble servant and walk and be a vessel and say the things that may put somebody to raising the proper question that they could potentially find their path as well. So
yeah, and I hear what you're saying very clearly. As I have this platform where I'm sharing my passion, it wasn't set up to be an evangelistic platform. It's set up to be a turkey hunt. Take guys turkey hunting with me through the video camera. But at the same time, now that you have some notoriety in the platform and you are a very humble person about it, then what else can I do? And I think that's the question that a lot of our listeners need to ask themselves. What else can I do? I mean, we all can do more. We're acknowledging that.
Sure.
There's always more that you can do. But maybe the question is, what can I, wherever I'm planted, if it's a guy with a YouTube channel and a Pinhoti Project chasing turkeys, or whether you're on an assembly line or you're working the checkout counter at the Piggly Wiggly, what can you do where you are that can maybe just inspire somebody a little bit more? Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit more. And that's what I hear you saying is I want to do a little bit more to maybe inspire somebody else.
Yeah, I think I'm just a firm belief that we're given talents. We're given a to-do list, more or less, and he gives us the talents, the skills, puts us in the places that we need to be. This is my place. I feel firmly in that. I was given this opportunity for, I don't know the reasons, I don't have the answers, but I'm just going to try to conduct myself in a way that would just try to be the proper soldier. I'm just trying to carry the message, and I'm not trying to be something I'm not. Like I'm just a turkey hunter, and I'm just a hunter. I feel myself in the woods. But I was put there for a reason. Like you said earlier, that guy on the assembly line, he was put there for a reason. That guy that's in real estate, he was put there for a reason. We're all given a certain set of skills or talents, and frankly, I just feel like a to-do list. Like these are the people that you were supposed to impact. These are the people that you were supposed to carry this message to. And I just feel like we're doing a disservice if we don't use those skills and talents and the gifts that we were given to their full potential. And
Absolutely.
that's kind of where I am as far as trying to figure out where I go next. And I'm like, all right, am I really treating this gift as preciously as I should? And I don't know. We're trying. Like I said, I'm sure I fail daily. And at the same time, um, just to go back to my future, I mean, my past life, where I used to run a termite and pest control business for about a decade in Atlanta. And good labor was hard to find.
Oh yeah.
Hiring people was part of my job. And I used to have to sift through resumes and hire people weekly, almost, it seemed like, just trying to find somebody that was a good worker. And it got to where if I had somebody who was interviewing for a job and they walked in there and the first thing out of their mouth was, "Oh, God put me here," and they used that God shield as they walked in, I almost knew instantaneously that person wasn't going to work out,
Yeah.
because the people that that almost walked around using the God word and using their faith as like a shield, um, were probably dishonest, or they were being disingenuine.
Yeah.
And because I feel like, here again, I've been an action person over a words person. If you truly do walk with the Lord, then your actions are going to tell me that. I can tell by the way you handle yourself and the way you carry yourself if that is true or not, or if you're just blowing smoke. And so that's the way I do with this platform. Um, I feel like if you carry yourself proper, there won't be any questions. You're going to
Yeah.
put more people where they need to be, and asking the right questions and seeking faith. If you just carry yourself proper, it's going to be much more impactful than a few words. So that's where, I've tried to make sure that my actions reflected the words and reflected the person that I want to be and who I want to be seen as. And my buddy Walt, that I just mentioned earlier, he said the perfect thing to me was, if you teach somebody to be the greatest turkey hunter in the world, when they're gone, how valuable is that going to be?
Right.
Your true gift is eternal life. And so if you're not directing people to eternal life, then is what you're doing really worth it? So it made all the sense in the world to me, what he was saying at the time. So I was started asking myself those questions, or I know what you're saying. You pray at the beginning of the season. You may pray over every turkey. You may thank the Lord every time you put your hands on one. You may thank the Lord openly in conversation, but is that the way you're carrying
Right.
yourself daily in your daily life? So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
here again, I probably fail at that daily, but I'm just trying to do better. And I think that's all any of us can do.
That's a good way to wrap this up, Dave. Just do the best you can where you are.
Absolutely.
Right.
Hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
If you're going to walk the walk, I mean, if you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk.
Yeah.
And I hope
Yeah.
that I'm doing that, and I don't mind people holding me accountable. Like, I'll be the first to say, yeah, I failed at that, and I do daily. I mean, I think we all do. I mean, that's obvious. That's why we need the repentance, and that's why we should be so thankful for the second chance that we've been given. But I think we would be not doing the right thing if we don't try our best to walk in the light.
Well, the Bible tells us over and over again that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And that Paul said, "I'm the worst sinner of them all." We all do that. And we may try hard, and it may, for some people, it may come across as disingenuous, but we don't know what they're struggling with at the time that they're not sharing with us. Just try to be honest. And one of the things that I have experienced just during this interview, talking with you, Dave, is the authenticity that you carry. You're a very authentic person, and I appreciate it. We see it in your videos, but now having the chance to talk to you personally and that's one of the key elements, I believe, for walking the Christian faith is just be authentic. Just be real, be authentic, knowing that we fail all the time, but that we have the grace of God that can carry us through.
And hopefully, I just feel like being authentic, especially when you're concerning faiths and things of that nature. Listening to as many stories as you possibly can find is a oftentimes the best recipe, because you're going to find somebody that you can relate to.
Right.
Maybe my journey and even the position that I'm at with my faith currently, if somebody heard, you know what, I was born and raised and brought to church, but church didn't really fit with me, or a specific church didn't fit with me. I got a bad taste because of this situation, but I didn't lose faith. It's just that the church thing kind of didn't appeal to me. And then I found, my peace in the woods or on the mountaintops or wherever. Maybe that story can relate to somebody and bring it full circle, because I feel like being relatable and just one of your experience that may be hand in hand with somebody else's experience is a lot of times what can bring similarities together to make to make a difference.
It can. But I would like to say this, though, if I may, to interject there, is that I've used this analogy before, is that if you go to Texas Roadhouse and order a steak and they cook it wrong, do you stop eating steak?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So if you go to this church, you go to this church and you don't get what you think out of it, you don't stop going to church. You go to another one.
You go into church, that's here again. In my youth, I didn't understand that I was going to the church and looking at the people, and I was not supposed to be going to church looking at the people.
Right.
People turned me off the church. The Holy Spirit should have been the reason that I was at church. I didn't realize that as a young man, as a younger person. You were brought to church because that's what you were supposed to do. And I'm not saying that early experience with church, I won't say turn me against faith. Obviously it didn't. It was necessary to probably put me where I'm at now. But it made me, I think the realization that I had was I was going to the church because it was what I was supposed to do. I wasn't there seeking
for the right
faith
reason. Yeah.
And seeking the Spirit and realizing that it wasn't a big deal what other people in the church were doing. I was there with my relationship, should have been there for my relationship with God, and that's the only thing that matters. So regardless of what the church opinions I may have had on some of the people in the church, but I think other people fall into that same rut that I did. They can get turned off by a character in the church, or by not. And I'm not speaking, when I say that, I'm not speaking. There was not a specific person, or there's not a specific situation. It's just that I've just you want to be surrounded by authentic people, and people I feel like it had your best interest and the people's best interest. And sometimes you just don't find. I just didn't find that, and I found those type people in places outside the church. And I was like, I think a congregation can happen. It doesn't have to be up under a steeple. It could be in an old woods cabin. And I think as long as that conversation is abundant, I think you're going to be okay. And I guess that's been my takeaway, is I'm not anti-church by any means. I love, and especially recently, a lot of the Bible believing churches that have really started. I won't call them mega churches, but I'll just say a lot of over the last handful of years, especially with the current climate of the world, some of these Bible believing churches that are telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, have become more. You can find them easier. They're on your social media. They're making a splash, and it's kind of it's kind of rejuvenated my whole desire to like get in and around these people, because I think as a whole, people are holding themselves more accountable. They're not just putting on their Sunday best just to go make a show. I think they're really willing and able to walk the walk. So it's definitely been a pleasant sight to see.
It is. And there's a lot of truth in what you just said, because for a while there's a church was let's go pat everybody in the back and tell them how good they are. God loves you, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is that God does love you, but at the same time, he is the one when we go to church, it's not about us. It's not about the preacher. It's all about him, about Christ. And what the word is supposed to do is to convict us. and to challenge us and to make us self-examine and to realize not what a horrible sinner we are, which we are, but there's so much more to God than just, oh, he loves you. Isn't that wonderful? There's so much more to the relationship with Christ that can completely transform who we are in the circumstances that we're in. And we can get that by getting in the word and having the word taught to us the way the word is written. And there's just a lot of value in that, I believe. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like church, it's a relationship thing, and considering the sacrifices that he made for us, he should expect, and he does expect things from us. And I think that's what church is supposed to give us. And all of this stuff is I think it's hard to comprehend when you're younger, I think it's really hard to comprehend. It's hard to understand. And it's something that I'm trying to understand. I mean, I understand more daily, I hope, that church is a place where we're supposed to go to know that there's an expectation. Like he's made the ultimate sacrifice for us. How can we not try to fulfill those expectations he has for us?
Right. Dave Owens, the man behind the Pinhoti Project. He's so much more than a turkey killer. And I do appreciate you taking time to join us here on Christian Outdoors. Tell the listeners how they can find you on your social media stuff.
Where everybody else is. Typically, you can find us YouTube and Mossy Oak Go are the two streaming platforms where you can find our long form content where the videos fall and all that stuff. But you can find us on Facebook and Instagram like everybody else in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so that's typically where we can be found. We have our own website, of course, and we sell our merch, and you can find our videos there. And podcasts like this, I link a lot of the podcasts that I'm in. We have a page for that so that everybody can quickly find that stuff. So,
okay. The Pinhoti Project, Dave Owens, thank you for joining us here on Christian Outdoors.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.